I'm hanging out with my good friend Josh Anderson out of the Nashville area. You are a real estate man extraordinaire, an investor extraordinaire. We've known each other for a long time, and I've watched Josh just grow his business tremendously. So I want to talk through, Josh, how did you get started in real estate? How long have you been doing this? Tell us a little bit about you real quick.
Yeah. So I'm right in the middle of the city. Got in the real estate business in 2006. So 18 years.
Yeah.
And, how I got into it was I graduated in finance and economics, went and worked at an investment bank, realized sitting in a cubicle probably wasn't for me. I'm a people person. I'm a shake hands relationship
Yeah.
guy. And so I was getting my real estate license kind of on the side because I wanted to buy some investment properties eventually. And I got miserable enough that I just decided I quit one day, put in my 2 weeks and decided to be a realtor and had $5,000 to my name and just was like, I got to make it happen. So
You're like, I'm going to go all in. Okay. So I got $5,000. I'm going all in. What does that first 6 months or 90 days look like as you make that decision? And then where's your business grown to? Because you've got a massive business.
Yeah. It took me 90 days to close my first deal. I did 23 transactions my first year, which looking back at, I did 23 transactions in really 9 months because I didn't do anything. I didn't get any deals closed in the first 90 days. But, it was the old school. You join Keller Williams and they tell you to lead generate 2 hours a day or 3 hours a day. And I went through 2008, 2009, 2010, and it was 4 hours a day. And I just built my business, somewhere between 25 and 50% every year. I didn't even know, I watched the news. We were having like this mortgage meltdown in 2008.
And you just went and made your own market.
Yeah. Well, I was either too ignorant to understand exactly what was going on. And I just walked in the office every day and made 20 contacts was my goal. And my ultimate goal was like set an appointment every single day. And that's what I did.
Awesome. And then what does your business look like today?
Yeah. So we have about 12 people on the team currently. We have, director of operations, transaction coordinator, 7 agents, started building out the investment division, very loosely like a couple years ago. And so we can talk more about that later. But yeah, so we do about depending on the year, it's obviously been up and down over the last couple of years, but we do 100 to 150 million a year in volume, which is typically somewhere 200 to 250 transactions.
I love how you say that so nonchalantly. We do $250 million a year. I mean, it's not that big of a deal.
Sometimes I feel like it's great. And sometimes I just, it's like we've been doing this for so long that it's just getting in business with good people.
Oh, amen, brother. Amen. Speaking of that, what's kind of your guys' talent acquisition model look like in order to be able to go, do $250,000 worth of deals? What's that looking like?
Yeah. So about 9 to 12 months ago, we've always heard you should always be looking to get in business with good people. And honestly, we should always be recruiting. And I think when we as small businesses get busy, that always goes to the back burner. Yeah. And unfortunately, it did for us as well. And so we just kind of put a playbook together of like, what can we, no matter what's going on in our world, what can we stick to? And we decided that we can do an event every 2 months, whether it's a mastermind or a panel inviting other agents, or, right now we're putting on an AI event next month. And we're going to invite, we'll probably have 50 agents there. And, I don't teach it. I bring somebody in that is doing some big stuff on AI. And, then we get into conversation with those agents from there. We're calling agents. We're calling the people we're doing deals with, the other agents, the co-op agents. So we've got kind of a whole plan we've got people on a weekly email that they get. And it just talks about the market and what we need to be doing in the current market, how to continue to win. Some of it's mindset, some of it's leadership, some of it's just getting back to basics.
So the majority of your recruiting efforts then are to outside agents by just kind of constantly providing value.
Yeah. And it's also, we're always trying to educate our agents on, asking them who do they do a deal with, or who do they know from, whether it's title company vendors, other agents, we're always trying to ask our agents. Some of them, we've got a couple right now that are actually really helping us find talent that they want to get into business with. And then we've got historically other people that it's just not a focus for them and they just want to go out and do their deals.
Yeah,
And both,
100%.
yeah, both is totally fine. We always want to look for people and kind of top grade our team to where we can be in business with the best. I always, not jokingly, but I use sports analogies a lot, and I'm always trying to win a national championship.
Ooh, amen. Okay, so what's it take to win a national championship in real estate, and kind of what's that mean to you? Dig into that deeper with me.
Yeah, when I think about a national championship or a Super Bowl team, I think you have to have three really great agents. I always kind of liken it to the 90s Chicago Bulls, right? So you've got Michael Jordan, you've got Scottie Pippen, and you got Dennis Rodman. And so you need one superstar and two really great supporting agents. And that doesn't mean that you can't have other great agents on your team, but not everybody wants to do, 50 deals a year. We've got people on the team that want to do 15 or 20 deals a year. And that's totally fine as long as they're in culture and they're an ideal team player.
That's awesome. P.S. I love the Chicago Bulls reference there.
Yeah.
And as you've grown your business, because you've grown it very, very big, what have been mentors or coaches that you've had along your journey that you're like, hey, this really helped my business? Who should our listeners be paying attention to or watching or learning from?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people that have certainly helped me along the way. The ones that stick out the most are, I've had different coaches for different things. Or, I had a coach early on through MAPS, KW coaching, that was Glenn Neely. He's retired now, but he really helped me with systems and processes. He was not the guy that was going to tell you, you need to go make more phone calls, because I had that down pretty good. If you wanted somebody to tell you to make more phone calls, you need to call Monica Reynolds. Like she's the one, and she's awesome. But Glenn really helped me dial into some okay systems that we had. We pretty much had a system for everything, but he really made me understand, like, does this system that you have work? It's working for 15 transactions a month. Does it work for 30 transactions a month?
Great
or
question.
or 50 transactions a month. The other people that have helped me, my most recent coach was Jordan Freed. Great coach, really thoughtful questions, really makes you think hard. I can't have this conversation without adding Gary Keller, because he's, I've gotten to sit in his top agent group for the last decade, a little over a decade, and man, the relationships I have from that room and the questions that he's posed to us over the last decade they've been amazing.
And what books are you reading right now, or what's resonating, in your mind as you're working on growing your business? As the economy's changing,
Yeah,
as we're in an election year and the Fed's monkeying with rates and transactions are down in real estate.
yeah. Well, you can see my wall of books,
Yeah.
and my wife color coded them. Yeah, I mean, I have to say, when I just think about a great business book, I think about The One Thing from Gary Keller and Jay Papasan. Not necessarily end all be all, but it's a great business book that is a super easy read. Like a 12-year-old can read it and understand it. That's part of what I love about it. And you can apply it to any area of your life. What I'm reading right now is the Tao of Charlie Munger. It's a really good book. I'm very much into wealth building, fitness, and nutrition. So I listen to a lot of podcasts on nutrition and kind of cutting edge science as far as those things go. But yeah, I mean, I think right now, a lot of people that are listening to this that are real estate agents should go back and reread something like Shift. I think it's very timely and very relevant.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think the one thing is always going to be 1000% relevant really to almost any business, because so often as top producers, we get pulled in so many directions
Yeah,
and we lose clarity of the specific goal that we're chasing. And at the end of the day, what's that thing that if I did it all of my business would move forward? It's such a clarifying question. In that last mastermind that you and I were at, that's when the thing I heard from that executive kind of CEO coach gentleman, his name escapes me, was, what's the clarity of the business you're building? What's the clarity of mission and vision? And Gary and Jay did such a phenomenal job with that book about
Yeah.
getting to that over and over again.
Well, because I have this conversation all the time. You can be in real estate and literally do 1,000 things all day long, and it's all just busy work, and you're exhausted at the end of the day, but you really didn't move the needle any. You just did stuff.
Yeah, you were literally just busy for the sake of busyness and not for the sake of productivity. As you look at real estate right now, because you're a titan in our industry. What do these changes mean to you? I'm talking NAR settlement, I'm talking technology, I'm talking, AI. What do these changes mean to you as you look forward over the next 5 years? What do you think the challenges are, and what do you think the opportunities are?
Yeah, it's an interesting time in real estate right now. And I think there are massive opportunities like on so many different levels of residential real estate and really all real estate. I'll just start with the NAR settlement. I think it was a big media push, and I from the deals I've done, nothing has seemed to change. I understand documents change and the conversations we have to have need to be maybe a little bit different, but I've always kind of done the same thing. And so my conversations aren't very different. And a lot of my clients have worked with me multiple times, and they're just like, tell us what to do, tell us what we need to, how we need to prepare. And I don't think that, it just feels like it got really blown out of proportion of what it
So
is.
blown out of proportion.
My business
And
hasn't seemed to change.
then he launches his own discount model right after that. You're like, okay, how contrived was this?
Yeah, that's right. With regard to like some of the other things that, yeah, it's like, look, technology's never going away. I personally don't think it's going to replace anything. I think it's going to make things easier and more efficient. I think it's in addition to and not in lieu of. I think with AI, I think people don't even know where to begin, and it's absolutely just fascinating to me. We've started using it in our business, and I think the average agent thinks, oh, it can help me with
Yeah.
listing descriptions. And I'm like, no, it's unbelievable the things that we're using it for. And we haven't even scratched the surface. There's just so much out there. And I think people that aren't willing to at least look into it more and do research and play around with it are going to get left behind.
I I think we're in that time of business where it's like adapt and overcome and improvise today. And each one of us really has to start kind of adding that into our workflow. Kind of like you and I were talking about at that last mastermind. It's like, where are you inserting AI into your workflow today? So AI, NAR settlement, how does real estate change over the next 5 years? Give me your future crystal ball.
I think a ton is going to change, and I think nothing's going to change. And I know that's not a good answer, but I think that there is always going to be a need for a high level advisor and consultant to somebody purchasing the largest asset of their lifetime. So I think from that perspective, not much changes as long as we continue to add value to the consumer, and they have access to more technology than they've ever had. So I think I think transactions are going to be more efficient. I think we're going to see a lot more solo agents join teams and understand the value that they provide. I think that the consumer has more transparency than ever. But I don't think anything really changes as long as you're a great buyer's agent or listing agent. I don't think much changes with regard to our jobs. Will commissions be compressed? Yeah, sure, maybe a little bit. But I think if those get compressed, technology allows the transaction to be easier and the agent is able to do more.
Yeah, well said. I think the level of value and service is going up, and that communication and connection is going up. And with this deluge of additional information, I think it actually forces or creates the need for agents almost even more, because now they have access to so much information. They're going, Josh, you need to explain this to me. I need to understand all of this because it's almost overwhelming to some of the consumers.
I don't think it's almost. I think it's super overwhelming. And I don't think that they know whether am I supposed to be paying for title as the seller, the buyer,
Yeah.
all these different things. Can they get access to documents and can they write up on a napkin or a piece of paper a purchase and sale agreement that becomes a contractual agreement? Sure. Do they know whether they're getting a fair shake or not? Do they know, can they out
Yeah.
negotiate somebody that's done it, 500 times? No. And so I just think, you mentioned something about communication and like kind of the client experience. I think the client experience and the customer experience, I think COVID made it all go away. I go to
Mm.
restaurants now and I'm amazed that they expect a 20% tip and they can't even fill up my water. And so I think that the agents that can provide a unique value proposition or that can provide a level of customer experience that is so far beyond what we're typically getting in every other aspect of our life, they get paid full 3%.
Wow. Yeah, because they're decimating the competition because in real estate it's lower, and just in, most service businesses it's definitely lower right now.
Yeah.
We're
And the barrier,
feeling the same thing.
well, the barriers to entry to become a real estate agent is almost non-existent. And NAR, I know they're all about the numbers of agents because that's how they get, that's how they get paid essentially. Um, I think it should be a lot harder to become a real estate agent because
Amen.
you're dealing with somebody's biggest asset, and a financial advisor that somebody's putting $100,000 with has to get so many, Series 7, Series 63, all these different, they've got to get so many more things and licenses than we do. And ours is simple. We can do continuing education credit 15 hours every 3 years or every 2 years. Like that's crazy.
Yeah, no, I agree. The standards, and I think the consumer's demanding more on the standard side, and I believe that's why, even like you said, you're gonna see more solo agents joining teams. I think that level of professionalism is in the process of massively increasing because it's being forced by the marketplace, which I love. I
I
absolutely
absolutely
love.
love it because it's going to force the agents that aren't interested in doing that or aren't interested in this being a full-time gig for them. This isn't going to be a side hustle. It's going to be very hard. And I think COVID's made a lot of people think about the idea, can I go out and just go get a 50 or 60 or $75,000 a year job and I can turn all this stuff off on the weekends, after hours, all that.
It's one of those things in life that brought a lot of things into perspective where people were decided, you know what, my health is important again. I need to get back into my relationships. Maybe commuting an hour a day in the car isn't worth it. Maybe I need to take a pay cut and move to the country. We saw so much of that. I want to shift gears, brother, and because I know that you've been an investor for a long time too, and then also you've started an investment business. Talk to us about how you got started in real estate investing, like maybe what your first investment deal was. What did that look like? Did you go hunt for it? Did you have a method of finding it?
Yeah.
Walk me through your first deal.
Yeah. So I'll preface with currently have 78 doors. And so when I bought my first investment property, my thought process was I'm going to go buy multifamily. So duplex, triplex, quadplex. And then from those three that I bought, I moved up into three apartment complexes, which are 30 units, 22 units, and 16 units. And the idea behind multifamily was if you have a single family home and you can't get it rented, you're on the hook for the mortgage. But if I have a duplex and I only have one side rented, I'm probably covering like 2/3 of the mortgage. And so that was kind of my hedge. If I was telling anybody that's listening or cares about investment properties on this call or this podcast, is like I would go buy a duplex and live in one side and rent the other, and I would rinse and repeat that as many times as I possibly could before my wife wouldn't let me. She wasn't she wasn't on board. She wasn't on board with that whole plan, but in my head, it made total sense. Yeah, from my wife's perspective, it was like she wasn't very interested in living in one side of a duplex and renting the other. But I think the best way, I think for a lot of people that are thinking about buying an investment property, I think your best first investment property is the first home you own. You get a
Amen.
preferred interest rate, go live in it for 2 or 3 years, and then make it your first rental, and then go rinse and repeat.
And so what's been your like investment philosophy then? So what I'm hearing from the philosophy is let's get as many units as possible. But do you have like a tighter version of that philosophy, your criteria, your buy box?
Yeah.
What is causes a buy decision for Josh?
Yeah, I never really fully cared where the property was. It happens to be that all my properties are in Nashville proper, um, and they're all within like 12 to 15 minutes of my house. I always was looking for the 1% rule. So you pay $100,000 for it, and it rents for $1,000 a month. Unfortunately, that is no longer available in Nashville, Tennessee. So people are probably looking more for like a 0.5% rule. I'm just looking for properties that I think will do well and will appreciate. Pretty much all I buy is multifamily from a hold perspective. It doesn't mean I wouldn't buy, a single family home. It's just what I started on, and it's what I like and what I know. I also flip houses. And so when I flip houses, it's more my buy box is like I'm looking for something under, let's call it, for the most part, $400,000. It's 1,200 to 2,500 square feet. I went back to 1950 to about 2010. I think the sweet spot is like houses in the 1980s and 1990s. I can renovate those houses pretty easily. They've got carpet. I can do hardwood floors, paint, fixtures. And so my goal is always to make, historically, I've always made 100,000 plus on every flip. I
Oh,
know
wow. Hold on. So 400, where's that at to relative to the median price in your area?
it's a little, our median is about, let's say, 450.
Okay, so you're purchasing just below the median.
Yep.
And then how much are you putting in repairs, and how long does it take?
So most of my properties, I'm putting somewhere between, I'll just round and say 65 to 100,000, and then I'm making 100,000 on them. They take 90 days. My goal is 90 days close to close. So I can flip it and be done with it. Well, for me, it was all about velocity of money. Like how fast can I move the money into another project? And so we get when we're flipping a house, I put it under contract, and I have all my vendors, all my contractors, they go over in the first 2 or 3 days, give me quotes. And the day we close, we got a big trash can out there, big trash yard, whatever they call them. And we're demoing that day of closing.
That's awesome. And so explain to the listeners, because I know exactly what you're talking about, but I want people to really get this concept. And this is what some of the value we're delivering to all of our subscribers. So thank you for those people that subscribe. What do you mean when you're talking about the velocity of capital? What does that mean to you? And what should that mean to the average person?
Yeah. The faster you move your money, the more money you ultimately can make. So my goal is like, I don't need to ink out that extra $10,000 by keeping it on the market for an extra 30 or 45 days. I'd rather leave that $10,000 on the table to be able to move it quicker, to be able to go fund my next deal so I can start that deal. So if I can do 6 deals a year, and I'm just using a small number, like if I could do 6 deals a year instead of 3.5 or 4 deals, I'm ultimately making significantly more money than if I just held out for that extra 10 grand. Does that make sense?
100% makes sense. And that happens so often to so many people. The idea here is you have to have discipline in your investing and know, your velocity on your capital, know your buy box, because then oh, if I just sell now and sell quickly, it doesn't matter if I sell for less, because I'll do a whole nother project in the timeline that I would have simply waited for that extra 10 grand.
So if I do one extra deal a year on flips,
Yeah.
I'm making an extra 100,000 versus trying to ink out that extra 10 grand.
Exactly. So you're literally putting a 10x return in your pocket. Is a flip, is that your perfect deal? The hold, the perfect deal? Like what makes you the most excited in the investing space, Josh?
Yeah. If you'd asked me this question 10 years ago, it'd be buy and holds, because I think that's how people get wealthy. Like you buy it and you let the market do its thing over time. But I got to tell you, I really love flipping houses. Like I love the hunt. I love getting the deal. So most of the deals I buy are somewhere between typically about 55 to like 68% of market value, after repair value. And so I'm buying them, I'm buying probate deals. I'm buying people that have good equity, but it's a hoarder house, or there's something about it that just, I'm taking on all the risk. And so I love flips. My thought behind flips were, if I do 3 to 4 flips, for every 3 to 4 that I do, I'm buying I'm buying a buy and hold. And I'm
Got it.
using a certain amount of that money that I make off of those to put a chunk down on that. So I'm essentially having my flips fund my long-term holds.
I love it. I love it. That's a great acquisition model at 55 to 65% loan to value. What's the lead gen model, or how many deals do you have to look at to go find something like that? I mean, that's a steep discount. That's amazing.
Yeah. So it's interesting. We've done mailers. We've done a little bit of everything. I don't think mailers in the world that we're in today don't seem to be working as well as they did when I started them. And I think that's the general consensus for most people that used to do a lot of mailers. And we've gotten really tight on our list. I got to tell you, the best deals I've ever done were like probate deals that were sent to me by an attorney, or probate leads that we bought and called through. And typically those people are wanting to move on with their lives, and they want to get as much money as they can, but they also don't want to do anything to the house. And there's typically 2 or 3 siblings, and they can't agree on something. The judge kind of forces a sale, and they get what they get. And it's not that we're trying to like rip somebody off. They need money, and we're there to provide money in exchange for the house. We get a good deal. They get to move on with their life.
No, I love it. Same for us. Some of our best deals come out of our network, our sphere of influence, for conversation's sake, and then the rest come from, other lead sources. And what I hear you saying is, for you, probate is a phenomenal lead source, both on the purchasing of leads and just knowing probate attorneys. Is there do you have 1 or 2 or 3 that feed you deals on a regular basis?
Yeah. I've got 1 to 2 that send me the most, and then we buy probate leads. So, and look, I have a lot of friends that flip houses and do wholesale deals. And it's interesting. Like, I've got a guy right now that I'm doing some hard money lending to, and he literally, all of his deals come from wholesalers. I've never bought a property from a wholesaler. I've never been able to make the numbers make sense. It just depends on what your market is. I mean, it depends how, you can get a playbook together for anything. Like, I've gotten agents to send me deals. I bought 3 deals about 3 or 4 months ago. I bought 3 deals from one agent. He just brought me the deals, and I made 100 on a flip, and then I wholesaled the other 2 for about 75,000. So yeah,
three deals, 175 total.
yeah, and he asked me for 10,000 on each one, and I gladly paid him.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, there's another lead source I think that so often people overlook is agents themselves. And I know I get a bunch. I know Josh gets a bunch. We get a bunch of deals from other agents by simply being the known buyer who closes, who performs, who's known in the marketplace. And there are times when other agents find deals and they just want to or need to make a commission because they don't want to deal with it.
What I've found is that most of them don't even have the money, and they're not even thinking like an investor. Look, I'm totally guilty of it. I can name several properties, like the exact address of properties that I wanted to be the listing agent on and make 3%. And I saw what that person did, and I'm like, well, he just made 60%, and he slapped some paint on the wall.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm like, and he made 60% in, 6 weeks, 8 weeks. Like, oh my God. And they gladly let me be the listing agent. Yeah.
I love it. If you had to start all over again from scratch and you had to rebuild your real estate business, I want you to answer this 2 ways. If I had to rebuild my real estate business, what would that look like? Second, if I had to restart all of my investments, how would I do that?
I was hoping you just asked that one way, because if I was getting into real estate tomorrow, I would 100% go the investment route. There's no real noise
Wow.
in the investment division. Like you're not dealing with, it's just the numbers either work or they don't. It's black and white. There's no like mom brought 3 kids home from the hospital here and she's got all these memories, and nobody wants to pay for your memories. They want to make their own memories. And so if you were just asking me what would I do, I would build out the investment division and I would flip houses, and I would do hard money loans and wholesale, and it's just the easiest barrier to entry. And most people just don't know how to do it, and it takes a while. And you don't necessarily need money, but it certainly helps. You can borrow other people's money to do deals. If I was redoing real estate as a retail agent in today's market, I would do very similar to what I actually did in 2006, which was I bootstrapped everything. I did guerrilla marketing. I didn't have any money to buy leads. I literally picked up the phone. I did 75 open houses my first year in the business.
Oh, wow.
I talked to everybody because you know what makes you really good at scripts? Walking into a house and having people walk into the house and you have to shake their hand and ask them what's your name? Do you live in the neighborhood? Are you actively looking to buy? Do you have an agent? Like, you're forced to ask those questions to do deals. What I would probably do different, I would not try to cheap out on an administrative. I would spend as much money as I possibly could on a complete badass director of operations or executive assistant. I tried to find the cheapest person I could when really we should have been looking for the most expensive person we can find, the most valuable person. And then instead of having a lead buyer's agent, I would have quarterbacked the deals and had 3 showing agents. That's what I would do.
What are the biggest risks that you've run into in real estate investing? And then, like, how have you mitigated against those risks? Because, one of the things that people say all the time is, Anton, I'd love to get investing and, do what you do, but it's just so risky. So Josh, how are you mitigating risk in your real estate investing?
Interesting topic, and we could sit here for hours and talk about it. I actually don't think it's risky at all as long as you know what you're doing. I think you've got to know your market, you've got to know your numbers, you've got to know what you can pay, you've got to know timelines and understand like contractor things. The hardest part of flipping a house is not even actually finding the deal or the money. I think the hardest part of flipping a house is finding a reliable contractor that actually will show up and do what they say they're going to do.
Yeah.
You can
So
hear the
true.
pain you can hear the pain of that happening. No, it's true though. Like, finding a true deal is harder than it has been, especially in Nashville, Tennessee. Finding money is super easy. If you have a great deal, there's a gazillion people that will fund that deal. But finding a great contractor that actually says, I can do this in 60 days or less, and I can have you have it back on the market on day 61 to where you can close by day 90 is very difficult.
100%, 100%, and so well said. So one of the things I want our listeners to get there is, then when you do find that contractor, you have to then treat them like gold. You've got to continue to build that relationship, pour into that relationship, because
For
they are gold. And second thing, one thing we've seen since 2020, and so I want to get your take on this. We saw property values shoot way up. Do you think when the government printed that much money, that just there's that much extra cash kind of still sloshing around the system, and that's what's making the deal acquisition that much harder?
I don't know if that's what's making the deal acquisition that much harder. It certainly makes cost of living so expensive. Yeah, there's a lot of money out there. I mean, I know where you are is probably a very busy market, and Nashville's gotten crazy how many investors have come into our market in the last 4 years. And they don't really know what they're doing, and they are overpaying for things. And I've gone back to some of the cash offers leads that have come in, and they tell me what they've sold their property for, or I can see it on tax records. There's no way to make the numbers make sense.
Yeah.
I don't know if some of these people have full-time crews and they're just trying to keep them busy, or I don't know. It's really crazy. Lots of things have made it harder. But it's like, if you're moving somewhere to a small town, you can afford to sell your house. But like, if you've got a house in Nashville and you sell it for 65% of the value, the after repair value, or loan to value, that's you're not moving into another house necessarily, unless you're downsizing or you're going into a rental or something.
Yeah, no, makes total sense. So let's talk about What's a significant setback that you've had in real estate investing or a loss? Walk us through, what happened, what did you learn, or what did you lose? What's that look like?
So I've never lost money on a real estate deal. Knock on wood. So
Oh, gangster.
maybe I haven't done enough of them. I would say I did one deal last year that I anticipated that we were going to make. It was probably going to be on the lower end of what we usually make, and it was going to be like 75 grand. And man, I just missed the mark. The market changed as far as interest rates, and it taught me to never buy a property in an HOA that is like an attached. It was like a townhouse. It was like a one level townhouse, and we didn't lose money on it. We probably made 10 grand, but it was one of those that I thought we were going to make a lot more. The market changed. Some issues with the HOA came up that I actually didn't know about when we bought the property. And yeah, so I try not to buy HOA properties unless it's just a slam dunk.
See, there's what we've learned. You haven't lost, but avoid the HOA.
That's right. That's right.
And you also do hard money. What does that look like? What made you decide to venture into that space? And has that been risky? Has it been time consuming? Walk us through that real quick.
It's not time consuming at all. I don't think it's risky either because I know my numbers. I know what I can lend on. And when somebody gives me some crazy, they're like, oh, I'm going to sell it for this, I can call BS on them pretty easily. I actually like the noise factor is like next to nothing. I have a little bit of a control issue with hard money though. I kind of feel like I'm giving somebody else money. And the only time I do hard money loans is when I don't have something in the pipeline myself. Because I always struggle with it. I'm like, I don't think somebody can do a better job of using that money than I can. So
100%.
I only give it when I don't have a deal and it's a slam dunk. So I've got 4 out right now, and they're all coming back to me in the next like 60 days or less. One's actually coming back to me, I think tomorrow, and the guy didn't even do anything. He just put it back on MLS and he's making like 40 grand on it.
Perfect.
So yeah, I'm getting my money back sooner on that one, but I'm still getting the amount of the minimum 90-day loan, even though it's been like 30 days.
Where are those leads coming from?
Some of them are friends. Some of them, I've got a client that does a pretty large amount of hard money, and he sends me any overflow deals that he just can't fund. And, I turn most of them down, but overall they're, a lot of them are friends and family. And again, I think if you analyze the deal and you know your numbers and you know how much it costs to do something, it's pretty easy to analyze.
Yeah.
I would say just have a good contract.
And then is there like an LTV you're trying to hit? And then what's your total return you're getting?
I'm not doing above like 75%. I want there to be a pretty good chunk of equity if I have to take that property back.
Yep.
So the returns are good though. I mean, I can see why somebody would want to be full-time hard money lender. I mean, I've got a guy in Nashville that's charging 15% and 3 up and 3 down. And I'm just like, wow, good for you, man.
Yeah.
So on a $500,000 deal, he's charging 18,000 in points on the front end and the back end, plus the spread in the middle.
Ooh.
Of 15%. I'm like, yeah, but he's built that over several years where he can kind of pick and choose who he wants to work with because he's been doing it for like 12 years.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense. If you were to give advice, to your kids or to your younger self, what would you tell the next generation or your younger self to do in this current economy or, to get moving in real estate?
I've got like 3 points on that. One, I think you need to fall in love with the basics. Everybody that gets into real estate wants all the shiny objects and all the stuff. Do the basics really, really well. Build your foundation on the basics. Picking up the phone and making 3 or 4 or 5 hours worth of phone calls every single day. Less people are answering their phone. Conversion rates are down. Go do the basics. Go shake hands. Go break bread. Whatever it is, go do it and be super duper consistent. And then what would I tell somebody about investing? I would tell you go bird dog properties and go find the deal, and the money will show up. And do your first flip or two or three with someone. Go find someone in town. The people that lose money on flips is because they think they can do it on their own because they watched or listened to some late night infomercial or something. And I'm being like kind of funny there, but like I think people think that they can do it. And it's better to just go learn and find the contractors on somebody else and split the profits, and do that two or three times before you go. Like, go do that.
Yeah, yeah. Build a solid foundation, learn how to do it, learn how to execute the plan, and then, like you said, just do it over and over and over again. Make it one of the basics.
Yeah, for sure.
How, because you have essentially two really big businesses, and I know there's even more that you're doing, and your wife's busy with her stuff too. How do you stay motivated? How do you stay plugged in?
I don't have a hard time with motivation. I like to make money. I like to build wealth. I like creating relationships and creating deals, and I like putting the puzzle pieces together. So I don't have a problem with the motivation. I think the biggest piece is get into business with really, really great people. That's the biggest struggle. It's gonna continue to, if you're running a business, whether you build a big business or a small business, it's all about the people that are in charge in those divisions or those departments, for sure.
And the people make all the difference on how
Oh,
far you go.
well, think about it on your title, your mortgage, your
Yeah.
insurance, property and casualty, your director of operations, everybody in every facet of your life. Like, your CPA can make or break you. I mean, they can help you save hundreds of thousands in taxes every year.
Yeah.
It literally, you got to go seek out the best people. It's the same with your fitness and your nutrition. If you go feed yourself a bunch of garbage, you can't expect to perform at the highest level. You just can't. And we've all
Amen.
been guilty of it. You're on your fitness journey, and I am too. It's not hard. It's being disciplined in certain areas of your life and being intentional and purposeful about what we put in our body.
Yeah, and, I mean, I think the one thing I'll just add there is when you're super consistent then in your fitness, it just spills over into all the other areas of your life, into your relationships, your business, your wealth creation. That's one of those cornerstone habits that just kind of fills out all the rest of them.
You can't eat pizza every day and show up for the people in your life at the highest level. You just can't. And I love pizza, but you can't.
Uh, Josh, how can people get a hold of you? They're looking in the greater Nashville area. How do they reach you, sir?
I'd say the easiest thing to do is find me on Instagram at the real Josh Anderson, or find me on Facebook. Just look for Josh Anderson in Nashville.
I love it. I love it. Thank you for hanging out with us today, sir.
Yeah, man. I appreciate the opportunity.